All right. Hello, everybody there. Andy Huang here. I'm joined by Carlos Thomas Jr. He's out up in Delaware. Um, Carlos, right now, are you in prep? Tell everybody what's going on if they're not up to date.
Yeah, so just finished up at the Arnold, and from there, just getting ready for the Detroit, and um, and then probably something after that. I don't know yet, but I just kind of taking it like after the show. I just kind of reassess, let my body calm down from obviously the processes of dehydration and stuff that we do. So after my body calms down, then I'm like, all right, let's see, okay, what's next? Assess physical state, mental state, emotional state, and then move on. Because I prepped, I was 20 weeks for the Arnold,
Yeah.
which is quite a long time, to be honest with you. And it's, it was like 4 more weeks to Detroit. So maybe a total of 24 weeks. And then after that, we'll see what happens. I don't know. There's a lot of good shows around that May time that I think would be really nice to do. Um, Obviously, it's Pittsburgh and then New York and then the Cal. And I think Legion even moved up to that time frame of like where May is.
Yeah.
And then there's even spanning into like June, there's Toronto. So that like May, June time is going to be like 5 shows where there's going to be a lot of like, good competitors competing. Um, so I hadn't thought about it, but it sounds very interesting to do because it's just so many like cool shows and it's just more time. Do I want to be in prep for 12 months? Maybe not, but I don't know. It just depends on how my body goes and how like mentally I am and things like that.
Yeah. So you touched about the mentality and stuff. So, right now, so you just came off the Arnold competition.
Mhm.
What were your kind of reflections and thoughts on how that went, and then like mentally now, how are you feeling going towards Detroit?
Oh man. So definitely got my butt kicked. Got my fucking butt kicked, dude. It was crazy. But it was a wonderful experience. So like the Honor Sports like crew team, Brian Powers, and Lloyd Davis and obviously like Tyler, Jim and all them, Steve, the guy they put on so like much of a huge production and they treat you so well. Like we were getting escorted places, I was like, they're like, are you ready, Mr. Thomas? I'm like, talking to my dad. Are you talking to my dad or are you talking to me?
Yeah, yeah,
So it was really cool. They treat athletes so nice. And I know there's like been like a backlash of like the things Arnold has said, but from my perspective, I was treated very well. I had a great time, man, and it was super fun. And I'd love to be invited again. And hopefully it plays a bit better. But man, it was stacked though, dude. Like it was freaking a stacked classes of a stacked class of, Arnold champions, former Arnold champions, former Olympians,
yeah.
all that stuff. So, I mean, it was good. It was a fun time, but definitely looking better, looking at bringing it better to like another show. So, but yeah, I was, I think I would say I was a bit more like, just like, all right, like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, okay, now, like now you know what the expectations are. I talked to the judges, obviously the conditioning, bringing up my back is still a thing. So I've already made plans to start addressing that. When I do hit the off season, I've been, talking to some other people, to, kind of lay out a game plan to, help bring up my back some more, which it did improve, they said. And then I've improved from Texas, which was my pro debut in 2023. So that in itself is a win
Yeah.
for me, making that improvement from show to show, which is great. So, but obviously we want to, do better and place high. So, that's the situation where I'm at now is, um, do after, possibly after Detroit, do I just, take a rest and continue to, and then, address the areas that they want me to address as far as like bringing up that density in the back because everything else is already there, like full as like far as like muscularity. Um, but I need that to be very competitive. And then obviously, or it's like, hey, you just hone in conditioning and really figure that out and nail that down, by doing more shows. Obviously, like you get more more shots on goal, right? And then that in and of itself would help refine the process of getting down a little bit lower body fat because I have a lot of muscle that was put on very quickly. Um, I got pretty big very fast.
Yeah.
So, it's just seasoning that muscle for myself and letting it, get conditioned. So there's two thought processes here. It's like considering obviously, going into Detroit, and then after that, is it like, okay, do we just, take the time, to go after that, obviously get healthy, and then, um, work on that area of bringing up that density. I would like to see more shoulder cap too, so keep working on that, but bring up that density to the back, or is it like, okay, do you just hone in on conditioning and extend the season, and just really, really figure that out. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now. I'm mentally thinking, okay, where will we go, um, after, after this next show? So, um, not quite sure yet. Not quite sure. So it'll be determined after Detroit.
Yeah. So you talk about conditioning, and it's one of the things you want to work on. But as far as like just being more conditioned and losing body fat, like obviously people would just assume that you just do more cardio or eat less, but like obviously it's way more complex than that. Like, what are some things that people might know about how to really get conditioned instead of other than just eat less and do more cardio?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, it's also a balance of like managing stressors because I'm ulcerative colitis. So it's a fine balancing act of pushing and pulling. For me, like I know guys who are very uh, like like you make a change in their diet and you get a great response, and you make another change, you get a great response. I feel like I'm more metabolically adaptive, where my body will very adapt to changes very quickly. So you make a change, you get a little bit of response out of it, but then it's like, oof, it's trying to hold a little bit longer. So I have a very stubborn body, and that is just compounded by, obviously I have also colitis now. So it's like you have a stubborn body, so like you can't just you might just want to just pound and push and push and push.
Yeah.
But I also have ulcerative colitis, which is um, exacerbated by stress. Physical stress, obviously, prep is stress physically, mentally, all that thing. So I have to, make sure I'm being mindful of that. Um, and that's more so just watching like my training volume as I get deeper into prep. I know guys like to, kind of probably jack up the training volume because they're like, oh, I gotta burn fat and train more reps and do crazy drop sets. But I did learn during this prep that for me that's definitely quite the opposite, and I think many people can benefit from that. Is um, obviously the food gets slower, so you might have enough you know in the tank to do two hard sets per exercise, so in total you might be doing, if you have four exercises for two chests, two presses, two flies of some sort, maybe five. You might be doing just two hard working sets, or you might just do one hard working set with a back off set with that. It all goes off of how, like, my body's giving me feedback, because I have felt that when I push really hard with, like, say like the training, um, or even like diet fatigue, I'll get like the negative feedback where my body will just stall. So um, it's been a learning process for that for me. I wish I was like other guys where it's like really just like, you make a change and they're like, man, like that, I lost like, you know, I'm on a rate of loss of 2 pounds per week.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, some weeks for me, nothing might change, but my composition might change. So it's been a very good learning process for myself. So yeah, I think for me it's just a process of like pushing and pulling, pushing the diet, pulling back, pushing the diet, pulling back. Um, and I think that would really, um, I think that process is something that really helps me out. Um, so yeah, it's a learning process. I tell you that, man. Like, I learned a lot about myself, myself and my body and how it responds to this prep. So it's been fun.
Yeah. So obviously, you have to do a lot of self-reflection and I guess, uh, just really critique yourself in everything you do, and not just critique, but just look for feedback. Um, But obviously you have a coach. So like how often are you communicating with him? Is it daily? Is it just every meal? Or kind of explain like your relationship with your coach and how you guys gel together.
Yeah, yeah. As you get deeper into prep, it's usually daily, usually like daily communication of, like check-ins, of course, and then it might be twice a day too. It might be like in the morning fasted, and then it might be post-workout, to see how the body responds, after, maybe like 2 or 3 meals, and maybe like 2 or 3 liters of water. Um, I like me, like some guys, I'm tend to hold a lot of water. So some guys might look a little bit really, really flat in the morning. So when they get a couple meals in them, that's like their look. Where for me, the look for me would definitely be, maybe like in the morning, one meal, a little bit of water, and then like that looks really good for me.
Yeah.
But then some guys, they might need like 3, 4 meals with like 3, 4 liters of water to fill out. But if I do that, I look way different. So it's like,
Yeah.
can't quite do that for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I found so interesting, like especially looking at other competitors, um, and discussing, with them what they're doing. I'm like, oh wow, that's really crazy. Like, man, like, okay, so you drank how much water leading on the day of the show? I'm like, that's really interesting. So for myself, it's different. But as far as like the communication aspect, that's usually daily, especially leading into like the final weeks. Yes.
Yeah. So you talk to him all the time, and obviously he gives your diet every day. Is the variation on the diet, is it the food stays the same, it's just a matter of manipulating how
Yeah.
much carbs, how much protein, how much water, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Food usually stays the same for me, more particularly because, like I said, I like food sources that I use are the ones that digest the best,
Yeah.
obviously. Um, so, it might be like white potato, small amounts of sweet potato, white rice for sure for me is just like the thing. Low fiber really helps, especially for also colitis. You want, you want foods that are low I think it's insoluble fiber. That's especially if you're getting into a flare up, and you want vegetables that are, obviously they have fiber in them, but you want ones that are low FODMAP, so like your green beans, and low residue as well. So the ones that just they break down before they hit like the GI tract a lot faster. So those are things I've learned about like just having like also colitis and bodybuilding, because some people can just pound veggies and that fills them up, but I have to be very careful about the amount of veggies I use, which vegetables I use. Um, so yeah, it's a juggling act for myself, but usually the diet just stays the same. And it's so crazy. I feel the best. I think about this the other day. I feel the best in the off season because one, stress is low,
Yeah.
and then obviously my food's a little bit higher. But my digestion feels the best because like I'm just so like stress is just super low. Like I'm not like training's high, but I'm having enough food to fuel the training. My cardio might be in there, but it's not like obviously like getting up to like 2 hours a day or something like that, right? It's not crazy. So my goal moving into this next phase of learning more about myself and bodybuilding is okay, how can I take like that feeling of being in off season and like that the least stress environment and then put that into prep. Like, so what are things that I can do that will mitigate all the stresses of prep? So that's something I'm working on and figuring out for myself, because even the peaking process leading into like the Arnold, and the dehydration process caused a bit of a mini flare up for myself that I've been kind of dealing with a little bit, because what happens is, obviously you're dehydrating yourself, and then like you're dealing with like the meet and greet, things like that. So all this other stress, and you're very tired. So that right there, I had to learn how to, um, work on, my stress for that. So yeah, I'm just trying to just working around it. It's been a crazy process, this year, learning, especially underneath Patrick with, the off season and then leading into the prep.
Yeah. So kind of make it more simple. The- You know, there's a certain amount of stress everybody can handle every day, but
Yes.
because of your ulcerative colitis, when you hit that certain level,
Yeah.
you have these flare ups. So,
hmm
um, can you kind of describe those flare ups, or what do you mean by flare ups? Like,
Yeah. So what I mean by flare-ups is, man, it's usually dictated by like urgency to go to the bathroom, like, like number two. So even though like nothing may be there, but you still have that urge to go, which
okay,
is terrible because it's just your body just doing like this. All so just imagine just you gotta go, but nothing might be coming out.
right,
So like it's just like that feeling. It's very uncomfortable. That can be accompanied by like bleeding, which obviously it's called ulcerative colitis. You have ulcers on the lining of your intestines, and they obviously they can if the flare up, they're bleeding. So obviously that comes out from the from the other end. So you get blood coming out, which can be very bad, especially if it's a lot. I mean, throughout the days,
yeah,
because that can lead to low iron count, which I've experienced before, where I had to supplement with like high grade iron supplements because I was dropping down in my iron levels, and you could see that in blood work. So I try to get blood work done. I'm going to get actually some done coming up just to make sure everything's good because I am like in this mini flare up and I am seeing symptoms of bleeding a lot. And then obviously you have like bloating, discomfort, which is all bad when you're trying to like make sure you're posing and holding your stomach in. If you're having bloating and discomfort, that's not good. And fatigue is a great is one that's like really hits hard. Like the fatigue of just obviously like you're losing blood. So I mean your iron counts going low. So you just get like this anemic
yeah,
fatigue,
yeah,
and that right there it's pretty tough, pretty tough. So that's like that flare up. What I mean, and this can last for a very long time for some people. There are people who are in consistent flare ups for up to a year where they have to take biologics, infusions, Intivo, Humira, immunosuppressants because this is it's basically an immune response. So
yeah,
it's classified as like a autoimmune disorder. Um, so so like they have to get infusions, and that's a whole nother thing to deal with. Luckily, I haven't crossed that bridge yet, but I do take like a medication, mesalamine, which is basically like an anti-inflammatory. Um, so yeah, that's that's like a flare up in general. It can get a little more graphic than that,
right,
but
right.
people don't need to know all that. They don't need to know it.
We got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of like dealing these flare ups and just your colitis, what
Mhm.
are some strategies or lifestyle things you do to number one, reduce stress, and maybe what are some supplements or medications that help
Mhm. Mhm.
support your immune system?
I obviously like I think sleep is the biggest thing. When I see that my sleep is gone, that my sleep routine's gone to crap, and like I could feel it, because obviously sleep is where we do those processes of recovery. And then for those who are lifters and they have like ulcer I have people reach out to me about it and they ask me and give me a lot of questions. I had a guy ask like he's like, man, like man, I can't get they have me on all these medicines. I started Humira. I can't seem to break out of this flare. I've lost this weight. This and that. I'm like, okay, what about your stress? What are you doing? He's like, man, I'm working 6 days a week, 80 hours. I'm like, well, there you go, brother. Like, you're not going to get out of it. And I know you got to work, but if you're sleeping 4 hours a night or something like that, and you're also training super hard, and you're working on these hours, I'm like, you're total stress. You're stress ball. You're a stress ball. You know what I mean? There's nothing like that. That right there is kind of hard any other things that you do, man, they might not even work just because you're just putting yourself under an incredible amount of stress. So that's just something like that I would tell people. It's just like, okay, what does your day to day look like? Like how are you managing like, your stress? So, is that just through like, mental stress? Are you journaling, physical stress? Are you managing the recovery aspects of training and sleep and nutrition? Those are important. And as far as like nutrition, are you eating foods that, agree with you? People who are having, probably like lactose or yogurts or something like that. Some people can get away with it. Some people may not be able to get away with it. Gluten in their diet. Um, I tend to try to stay away from that. And, also, people who may be, throwing in like a lot of hot sauces, spicy things that may just be upsetting their gut. So I try to address it from like, okay, stress, nutrition, and then as far as like medications, I do take mesalamine, but I like to use an oral BPC
Okay.
157 as well. I think that's great. I use that every day.
Yeah, a lot of
And
people don't know that BPC can be used for internal
hmm
functions too, not just for healing, right?
yeah, yeah, yep. So I like to use that a lot. And then I also try to, obviously use like supplements like turmeric, um, and just like anti-inflammatory supplements. I do use like digest aids and all the other things that we use as bodybuilders to help us eat our meals. Um, but those are the things that I would say has really helped me out, are obviously addressing like making sure my physical stress, managing my training volume. Because I used to love training in the gym, being there like 2 hours, smashing, every set I can to close to failure. But then I'm like, oof, man, I'm in like a prep and I don't have the energy resources to sustain that. And that reflects in the next day, man, I feel like dog crap. Everything is just out of whack. So you have to manage that, and then dial in like your supplementation, eating vegetables that agree with you. Obviously, getting your micronutrients in, and your supplementation. So BPC 157 is something I use a lot, and then turmeric, of course. And then are you eating like things like egg whites? Which obviously produce sulfur. You're getting gassy, you're getting bloated. There are other options in egg whites. I know egg whites is a great staple, but I think we overuse them too much.
Yeah.
So I do cycle on and off of them. Like I think there was like a whole year in 2023 where I did not eat any egg whites, and I actually reintroduced them this year, 2024 into this year, in small amounts. So, but there are times where I still cycle off them. I might swap out for like a quality whey supplement or just like chicken,
Yeah.
some low fat, lean protein source. Um, but whole eggs seem to be good too because obviously they have the yolk in there. But if you're just smashing like a whole 16-ounce carton of egg whites
Yeah.
every day, whew, I feel sorry for you because sometimes it just doesn't digest too well, and then you got the gas and everything. Your partner's like, what I mean, you Dutch ovening your partner in bed. It's crazy, crazy. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, that's those are things that like I've been doing that has helped me out a lot. And yeah, honestly, man, like when this having ulcerative colitis has definitely helped me nail in like a few things as far as like my recovery, um, and being mindful of that. So I think we're getting into a day and age of training where people are there's the work smarter crew and there's the work harder crew, and then there's people in the middle. And then like, what I mean, I think that's like where we have to be is just
Yeah.
like, obviously like you want to be smart and you want to make sure you're, optimizing everything, but you also want to make sure you're bringing that effort and intensity to that, and getting, getting the most out of your training.
Yep. Um, let's talk a little bit about your like personal life outside of the bodybuilding, outside of the gym. So,
Mhm.
I think I know some of your hobbies, but you want to talk about like what you like to do when you're not in the gym, not working, and like kind of one of your hobbies, or like what you like to watch or do to pass time.
Oh man, yeah. So when I'm not, when I'm not like just like lifting or working, I like to just relax honestly because stress. So I just like to just calm everything down, especially after a long day. So I'll just pop on like some anime. That's like my thing. I enjoy it so much, man. I know like, oh man, it's like anime's for kids. I'm like, dude, I've been watching it since I was a kid, man. So
Yeah. No,
I'm gonna keep watching these
some
shows,
of these
dude.
animes are not
Bro,
PG-13, so
they're bad.
yeah.
Some of them are really really crazy. They get out there. So yeah, you gotta put a parental advisory on them and not have your kids watch them. So yeah, I do that a lot, and then just honestly just like relaxing. I'm a big like movie guy, like chill, relax, go to a movie. Um, there's the Philadelphia Art Museum that's not too far from me. It's something I really like to do. Just anything that can like kind of switch me off and get me into like a calmer state because my mind's always like, you know, you know how it is when you're obviously you own a business and you're like, what can I do to get better? Or even in like like you're training, you're like, okay, what can I do to get better?
Yeah.
How can I do this? How can I do that? Everything has to get, so we're so like operating up here all the time that we forget to like bring it down and come down and just relax and then be present. Um, so that's something that I try to do. Whatever helps me just switch off because I'm so like switched on all the time outside of everything. So like if it's like a movie, great. I can go in, turn my head, turn my brain off. If it's anime, turn my brain off. Obviously, I have to read subtitles if I'm doing
Yeah.
that stuff. I have to read subtitles. But or if it's just like just anything I could do to relax myself, or because like I get like some people may have like pumped up physical energy, so they want to do physical things that gets that energy out. But all my energy is expended in the gym. So when
Yeah.
I'm done with that, I'm like, man, I need to like, just relax and then because I got to do that tomorrow. So those are some things that I like to do. It's not like anything too crazy or adventurous, but when you're a bodybuilder and you're like super heavy, like you you don't want to go rock climbing
No.
or crazy things. Those are things I used to do when I was a little bit lighter. I was like, oh, I'll just go. My friends were like, let's go rock climbing. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go rock climbing. Sure, let's go ride on bikes and stuff like that. But I'm like, man, one fall, one this, one that, man, one torn bicep, I'm done. So,
Oh, yeah.
uh, so a lot of my activities have been quite limited to, just simple activities.
Nice. Um, so, with this sport, you're essentially freely, openly getting judged, not by just the judges, but obviously the whole internet, pretty much.
Mm.
So, how do you deal with kind of the aspects of like expectations, judgments, stuff like that? Kind of like how do you stay confident, or do you use that as fuel, or like how do you deal with everything that comes along with being a bodybuilder and having all these opinions about you?
Yeah, the thing that you said is like opinions about me. Um, the only ones that really matter is the ones that I have close to me, and those are ones I try to really just stick towards. Obviously, like saying like you could have like 50 good comments, but then that one bad comment sticks out, right? Like,
Yep.
um, so that's why like I just try to like shut my brain off to either the good or the bad. From somebody says, "Hey man, great job," I'm like, "Thanks," move on.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, "Man, you need to bring up your back." Thanks, I know, appreciate it. Move on. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
like, thanks, man. I've known it. I know it, brother. I got it. You gotta get a little bit more conditioned, bro. I'm like, I did. I had no clue. I had no clue, right? It's like,
Right.
didn't cross my mind that I need to get more conditioned, but I appreciate that. Move on. So I try not to let it stick, kind of let that roll off me like water on the duck's butt. You know what I mean? Just roll off real quick, real easy. But sometimes it does stick to you a little bit, but that's where I say like I have the people around me, to like bring me back so I don't get because as bodybuilders we could get so a bit neurotic and they're like, oh man, I mean this channel said like this or something like that. And they're just like, you know what, man, don't even consume it. Don't even consume that channel. Don't consume that thing. Like consume yourself with stuff that's gonna fill you up and bring you joy and bring you love and positivity. Anything else like all the channels or gossipers and things like that. I mean, they might say something good about you, but don't even consume it. Because the next day they might say something bad about you too. Like, but
Yeah.
that's their job. That's their job. So don't even consume it. Don't bring it into your life, Don't do that. Because I had a guy reach out to me and he's a NPC competitor and he had to pull out of a national level show and he's like, man, how do you deal with people just like, saying like, ah man, like how you pulled out of the show and you'll do this, you do that. It's like, dude, don't even consume that. Don't even consume what they're talking like, because what they're spouting is just for themselves, It's just for themselves. It's for their clickbaits or their, because they got to do that because they need views and obviously they want to talk about some news, but don't consume it. Just talk to the people around you. What do they think? That's what matters. So that's what I try to do. Like even after the Arnold, I just like switched off, just switched off and I just went back to doing the things that I like to do, refill. It sounds so like hippie-ish and like, hey man, refill your cup, dude. Like, you need to do that stuff. But it's very true. Like
Yeah.
you get burnt out on consuming like, you know, like even like Nick, people are like, man, Nick Talker. Now I'm like, damn, look at Nick. He blew the F up. He's looking freaking crazy. See, it's just they're just flip flop like a metronome. They go from one side to the other,
Yeah.
back and forth. So that's how fickle it is. So if it's so fickle, it just let it go. It doesn't matter. So, um, but again, like I said, it can still hit you sometimes, but that's when you lean on the people close to you.
Yeah, I think, I mean, we're no different from like these sports athletes and then they have,
Oh, Steve, they got
ESPN.
Stephen A. talking shit, or like,
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
other people. Yeah,
Yeah, and like you said, one day they're all over you, they're complimenting you, and the other day they're shitting on you. And part of that is their job. Also, a lot of them have no idea what it's like to be an athlete or a bodybuilder at this level and what you're going through. And so, yeah, you just really don't need to trust or care about their opinions,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, who I was listening to, it was one professional athlete, but he was like, he's like, I don't even watch Sports Center. He's like, I don't watch Sports Center.
Yeah.
I don't watch any of the news outlets because then you consume it. Then you either get too high on your own horse, you're getting high off your own supply. People talking good, great things about you, or they start talking crap, and then you get real low, and then you carry that into your next workout, your next game performance, because then you have the anxiety of like. Some people might like it though. Some people might use that as fuel. But I would probably say the more general people would probably get down on themselves, and then go, ah, man, these people are talking bad about me. So that's why I just say don't even consume it. Don't don't even don't put yourself in the situation. It's that's the best way.
Yeah, I can't, that just reminds me, it kind of has something to do with it, but like, I bodybuild a little bit too, but it seems to be like everyone does this. You're like deep in prep, starving, and we all just look at like food porn and cooking channel food. Right? Like sometimes we also do it to ourselves. Like you're talking
Yeah.
about, just don't even consume it. Like why do you keep torturing yourself
Yes.
by listening to these people or watching that stuff? Just ignore it or get off the internet.
Yeah, yeah, you're so hungry, so you're like watching like I mean, I do it right now, bro. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I'm like these donuts look great, and but I'm like, I'm like, man, why, what am I doing to myself? So, but like, like right now, I got hooked on Guy Fieri's grocery games.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So like I'm watching
yeah.
like grocery games, but it's not even the food that they're making. I think it's because it's competitive.
Competitive.
And I'm like, they're like cooking against each other. I'm like, yeah, this is fun. He's competitive. So like, so the food aspect is just a part of it, but more of the competitive nature that I like that got me hooked. But that's also the food. I'm like, man, they really cooked that, what I mean, that roux. They made that roux and that gravy. I'm really, so it's just crazy. But yeah, man, like, try not to even put yourself in the situations, that's the best thing I could do. Like, cause you got to protect, the bodybuilder's more up here than it is like the physical aspect. Like, we can all train hard, we can all do the cardio, we can all eat low food and things like that. What comes down to is just like the mental part of it, and and really just grinding that out. So yeah, I think that's I think the people who have really succeeded in this sport have a very strong mentality.
Yeah. Um, so I think we talked about mentioned work. So right now, like, what do you do besides the profession of being a professional bodybuilder? Do you coach? What are some other things that you do to make money?
So I work for the University of
Okay.
Pennsylvania as a research coordinator, and um, that's like the day job. But I would really, really, as like I don't know if you're seeing it now, but there are some possible cuts to like the Department of Education,
Yes.
and some people are losing funding, like researchers. So obviously, like that's something that could probably trickle down to me because I work in the research field. Um, so I think I'm working on my not I think, but I'm working on my coaching. I got my website up. I got the infrastructure getting built right now.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm trying to transition into because I'm like, hey man, like if this drops off, I still got something that I call my own. Even if it doesn't drop off, it's still something I can do for my own. But
Yep.
I've been bodybuilding for a very long time, but never thought of jumping into the coaching sphere because I was always like, I want to make sure that I'm ready to take on that because then you're taking on other people's goals and
Yep.
dreams, you know, and I take that very seriously. You know what I mean? Like even the work I do, when I'm working, I take it seriously. When I'm bodybuilding, I take it seriously. When I went to school, I take it very seriously. So if I would like, as I'm moving into coaching, I want to make sure I'm giving enough to the people and giving them the quality of service that I expect of myself.
Yep.
So that's why like I'm taking on some mentorships. I took on some mentorships, obviously with the J3U, with and also with Johnny Casalina, ProFX. Took
Yeah.
on some mentorships with him as well because like I said, whatever I do, I want to make sure like I'm doing it to the best of my ability. So the coaching will come soon later on this year after I'm done my shows. Like I said, we got the website built, all the infrastructure, all the payment systems getting ready. I'll have an app ready to go too, because I want to be caught up to, making the process streamlined for
Yeah.
myself. Because obviously I'm still bodybuilding, I'm still working, and I don't want to have 1,000 spreadsheets, on Excel or anything to like deal with. I know that's how people operate, and I've seen it. But for me, I want the experience to be, you know,
More modern, more
yeah,
streamlined.
more modern, more streamlined. Yeah, and have my own system in place that'll make it easier for me to operate. So that's why I was like, I'm not just going to jump in and set up a Gmail account and be like, message my Gmail and I got you a coaching. I'm like, no, no, no. I want things to be super, laid out because it'll make it not easier for me as a coach, but it'll make it more efficient so that I make sure people get the service that they need. Because obviously I'm still bodybuilding at the highest level I can, and obviously at 9 to 5 juggling. So I want to make sure that I get these things in order so that like, I don't want to get caught out on the internet. Like, man, that coach didn't get back to me in 10 hours.
Yeah. Right.
Even though 10 hours is actually pretty
It's
good.
very good. Yeah.
Like my coach gets back to me within the same time. So, but yeah, that's just something I'm going to dive into as I go through this year, because I think coaching it's a good way to have your own business, and I mean you get to help people, which is a twofold experience.
Definitely. Well, we look forward to that coming later this year. We'll do one more question,
Yeah.
and we'll wrap this up. So, what advice would you give to someone who's kind of been knocking on the door of like the pro card, but just been, top 4, top 3, just always close but not enough? Like, what is some words of advice you give someone who's really like not like really close right there?
Man, honestly, it would be to just, stick with it because I know how it is to, kind of get right there and then like you're like, ah man, like you didn't quite make it, and that can be a bit disheartening.
Yeah.
It's really disheartening when you're like, ah man, like I almost made it, right? And you just and you didn't quite get there. So just keep sticking with it, obviously, get the feedback from the judges, which I think this time around, these most recent years, it's very easy. I wouldn't say easy, but it's more accessible than before to get contact with judges to get
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
And the things that Tyler's doing with like, like putting out videos for the pro shows and stuff like that, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So I would say, if you can get in touch with like the judge that judge your show, talk to them, see what you got to work on, and then obviously game plan, moving forward, what can you do to make those changes. So like for me, obviously like we discussed like in the beginning, all right, like my choices of, okay, do I after this show, do I just take a year to go ahead and bring that density to the back, or do I just continue to hone in and bring maybe more conditioning to some shows later in the year. um, and that's something that is a process that I discuss with obviously the judges, and then I'm discussing it with my people around me. So I think that's something, I mean, that people can do is like if you're close, if you're top 5, at a national level show, USA's, junior nationals, junior USA's, North Americans, nationals, then you're knocking at the door. So it's just at that point, it's just getting the feedback that you need to do and then going to work. Because hey, like you could be one good off season away from getting that pro card.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's something I learned when I went and got my pro card in 2021. I treated that off season, like a prep. There was like the meals weren't missed. The training was always at a high intensity. I did take breaks when I needed it, but it was one of those years where everything just clicked. And you're not always going to have those years, but you want to make sure that You're doing the best to optimize everything as much as possible. So if the judges come back to you and they say, hey man, you got to bring your legs up, immediately start thinking, okay, what what training looks like, what diet looks like, what recovery looks like, so that you can do that. Because like I said, you could be one good off season away from just getting that pro card. And that goes for anything. It goes for anything. I mean, you're one good sale away from, from your business, blowing up. You're one this, one that. Yeah, I think Ed Milet says that, the power of one more,
Yeah.
right? Like one more rep, one more phone call, one more this, one more that. Like we can all just be one more away. So, if you just keep picking that mentality of like, all right, wake up one step at a time, one more day, one more week, one more month, and then it translates to one more year, and then the next thing you know, you're at your next national level show, and that one more added all the way up to, what I mean, that number one spot. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, guys. I think that's it for today. I didn't see many questions. I did see one that asked if you're still working with Patrick, which you are. Um, and but we'll definitely do more of these later on.
yeah, yeah.
But for
I
now,
enjoyed these. This is fun.
yeah, it's cool. For now, we'll let Carlos go so he can go rest and recover and finish up this prep strong, and hopefully we see him on the Detroit stage with an awesome improved package. And good luck to you the rest of the
Thanks,
season. Whatever you
brother.
decide, obviously, we'll be behind you and follow you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. You guys have looked out for me ever since the beginning, so I really appreciate you guys.
All right. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you guys later.
Peace.
Later.